How's it going, fellow Jokers? Welcome to a brand new video update, but almost deja vu for me on Joker 2, because I wanted to talk about this over the past few days. It's been a long weekend, so I just thought, screw it, I'm gonna get to it now and talk about my thoughts on the recent news of a Joker 2 being an actual thing. And the reason why I say deja vu is because I remember making a video very, very similar to this in September of 2020, where I went over the rumors of Joker sequels, and actually, yes, plural, meaning 2 and 3, and my thoughts on where the story could go if they did carry it on, and just generally, what are my thoughts on a follow-up of Joker. This is what makes this video very interesting in of itself, and I'm dying for your thoughts and your contributions down in the comments below on what I'm about to say, because I like playing devil's advocate. So sure, the face value aspect is a lot of us like Joker, and a lot of us feel like a sequel would be unnecessary, but there is story there for a sequel, and I truly do believe that, believe it or not. And maybe this video might change your mind. Not that I'm trying to change your mind, because I still quite don't know really where I land with it, but I am definitely game, believe it or not, to see more if they very tactfully and delicately curate it in a certain way. And we're going to get into that, but first of all, I want to thank all my patrons appearing on the screen. You guys help me do what I do. If you want to help support what I do here on the channel, links are on the top pinned comment. Just wanted to put that there because you guys absolutely rock, as well as the channel members. Cannot forget about the channel members. I'm still getting used to channel members. So you may be thinking, like, what do you mean Joker news? I haven't heard any Joker news. Maybe you have, though, because as I said, I am a bit late with this, but I still thought I'm still going to give my opinion on it anyway. So this time round, it's not even a rumor so much. It's a lot more substantial, because the video I made that I was referencing a minute ago was way back in September 2020. The reason why I wanted to talk about that back then, even though it was a rumor, is because Joker sequels and a continuation of the narrative, or even if it isn't a continuation of the narrative, but still having Joaquin Phoenix as this, you know, John Doe, if you will, who becomes Joker, has always been in the pipeline. It has always been in the pipeline. And to be honest, when I say in the pipeline, I mean like it probably was going to happen in some shape or form, or if not, get very close, because we've had Joaquin Phoenix talk about it, whereas before he was kind of like, I'm not so sure, maybe this is a one and done thing, but after he done it, he spoke about how he never thought of it as a dream role. I'll let the man say it himself. I played this in the previous video credit will be on screen to the interview. But yeah, I feel like this is important for context, and then we'll follow up the most recent news coming from The Hollywood Reporter.
I wouldn't have thought this is my dream role, but now, honestly, I can't stop thinking about it. I talked to Todd a lot about what else we might be able to do, but also specifically, is there something else with Joker that might be interesting? It ended up being a dream role. Me and Todd would still be shooting now if we could, right? Because it seemed endless, the possibilities of where we could go with the character.
So I think that tells you he is probably fairly game. Obviously, this goes without saying, whether this is for quality or not, the studio with the success of Joker would be very game, as long as all the other parties are interested. So Joaquin is game. Warner Brothers are most obviously very game. I don't need to explain the sense and the business sense in that. Despite what audiences think, people will still go and see this movie, whether it's great or if it was unnecessary or surprisingly better than the first. Something maybe like A Quiet Place 2. I know that's such a random example, but that's what I'm hearing. I haven't seen it yet. I want to see that, by the way. But yeah, apparently something I didn't think could happen, A Quiet Place 2, even though there's a lot of narrative there compared to Joker carrying on. I get how this is a weird comparison, but you know, things can surprise you. So, what is the most recent thing? The Hollywood Reporter recently is kind of a very interesting under the rug kind of thing that happened, so to speak. So, in an article going on about several different other bits and pieces, this little bit of information kind of inadvertently confirmed that they really are quite literally penning up a Joker sequel. Let me stress that this doesn't mean this is happening. This is 100, like, scripts get made all the time. They don't make it. Ideas don't make it. Yeah, again, I don't want to sound patronizing because I trust you guys know this, but it still is the train is on the tracks, and now the steam is coming out the train, and because of what was said in this Hollywood Reporter article. So it goes on about Client Zack Snyder is back in action with his Justice League cut on HBO Max and Netflix's zombie flick Army of the Dead. And then it goes on to say Todd Phillips has struck a deal to co-write the next Joker installment, while hold on, Todd Phillips has struck a deal to co-write the next Joker installment. Now, whereas before the video I made in 2020, I really stressed that it was coming from a website that isn't so mega reliable. I'd never really cover that stuff, but the only reason I did is because, as I said, with the context, Joker getting a sequel has always been a possibility, and that's been said by, not only Joaquin, as I said, but other people. So I felt like, there was merit for me to explore it, but now this is getting recycled in a lot of places because the Hollywood Reporter wouldn't exactly put something like that in there unless they really kind of hadn't heard some proper substance about Todd Phillips striking a deal to co-write the next, script for whatever the next thing could be. So sure, I could say take it with a grain of salt, but I almost don't want to say that because I almost every fiber of my being believes that this is 100% happening in terms of at least script stuff. That's not me saying I 100% believe the movie's happening, but all the cogs are turning. With that out of the way, what do I think? Let me reiterate my thoughts from that previous video of a potential Joker sequel. Now, this is where things get interesting because, people take things very face value. And whether you're a huge fan of the take of Joker or not, whether you thought that he was truly Joker in the movie or not, like I respect everyone's opinions. Whether you still loved the movie and don't want a sequel, or whether you loved the movie and do want a sequel, whether you hate the movie and don't give a crap, there definitely is material there that isn't, I would like to think, milking it, despite how much it is very easy to believe that opinion of, oh, okay, think how successful Joker was, why wouldn't the studio kind of want to do another one? Well, there is a bit of blend of both there, we'll admit that, but the narrative is fascinating because with the Joker character, especially with the way the movie was portrayed, which is why I'm such a big fan of it. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, believe it or not, but the reason why I was such a fan of Arthur Fleck, and memes, society memes aside, it really does mirror a substance of the Killing Joke. Let me premise this by saying I truly do believe and want to carry this out throughout the rest of the Joker's creative use in God knows what projects we're getting ahead, that it should always remain multiple choice origin. I don't mind if we get like a little kind of origin here or there, like the Joker movie did. However, what it did is very ambiguously set up this kind of mysticism there of like, oh wait, but did this happen? Or was Sophie really there? Or did he kill this person? Or was this all in his head? And was it all in the interview room? For example, when he was smacking his head on the door, or earlier on in the movie when he was having that first meeting with his counselor, or at least from what we saw in the movie, or switch right to the end when he killed that woman. It's like the whole unreliable narrator thing. We don't need to go over all of this again. So therefore, you can probably guess what I'm going to say, and massive thumbs up to anyone who remembers what I've said before in that previous video from like I can't do maths, September. Think about it. The reason why I would be game, I'm a sucker for it. I love Joaquin Phoenix. I am biased here. I really am. And I fully admit that this could go wrong. However, let me hold with me for those who are saying, come on, Boba, like what the hell? We don't need another one. You can offer another multiple choice origin. It is very relevant that way. Think about it. Joker, I'm trusting a lot of you guys know his character. Think about the most popular one. Heath Ledger in the live-action Dark Knight movie. He told a different story each time. Think about what we saw with Arthur Fleck in Joker, and how at the end, it makes everything we just saw unreliable, but there are probably a few events in the film that we can be pretty certain that happened, but we still can't piece it together. Second movie, completely different tale. Now, you could be like, I get how that's interesting. We can see another version. So in this one, we saw the more Killing Joke aspect of where he was a stand-up comedian. He was having a rough time in Gotham, living in the Lower East Side apartment. He was getting shat upon. And I get it, like, society, but he was just in the same thing as what it is mirrored sometimes, like in the comic books, in how Gotham can shit on the lowest people and birth bad people as a result of, quote-unquote, one bad day, even though it was a few bad days, but you get my point. Society memes aside, it is still relevant in how Gotham itself can shape miserable villains, and often the worst, such as Joker. So to explore that in another way would be a very interesting opportunity, all while I do want to say, but at the end, if, you know, and I can predict some people saying this, that is a cool idea, but at the end, if he's just in the room again, and it's just like, oh, yeah, he's speaking to a doctor, it's like, oh, it's just another story, it's like cool, but too samey. So I can agree there. The second movie has another option to explore a different origin, perhaps, you know, maybe quite a bit different from the first one, which kind of mirrored the stand-up, you know, killing joke version of things, obviously minus the Red Hood gang, minus the chemical vat, because that did the mental health side of things, where he lost his wife and unborn baby and stuff, but then that also forced him to kind of carry out the job and then go and fall into the chemical vat. So that had like a couple of origins mixed into those flashbacks in that graphic novel. So obviously, I can't right off the top of my head give you an origin for the second movie, because I could by saying chemical vat, but you would almost have to include Batman there. And yes, that is a possibility, but I don't know if they would do that. It can still be an Elseworld story, so they could very easily do that. Warner Brothers and the studio might not be so strict, because it was heavily advertised, even to the general audience who might not even know what an Elseworlds thing is, that this is not DCEU, this is not Matt Reeves' The Batman little pocket universe. This is like Elseworlds. I think a lot of people, believe it or not, by now know, even without maybe knowing what Elseworlds means, knows that Joker is still an Elseworlds movie. There is another option as well, which is a blend of both. So there are another couple of options, and they're very similar options. So I've said one, doing a whole different take with the same actor, obviously, and I have utmost faith in that because Joaquin Phoenix has an incredibly diverse range where I feel like he can play, and there are different Jokers, just like how there are different types of Bruces, even though it always, you know, treads the same path. For example, Joker-wise, anarchic, chaotic Joker, like Heath Ledger, and then you get, you know, one like Leto or one like Fleck, you know, there are, or Nicholson, there are very different types. So I 100% believe Joaquin could do that, but now let's very quickly move on to the last two, which is samey. So that is, of course, something I probably should have presented at first, continuing the narrative, and that is continuing the narrative from the first film. So it would still be ambiguous because we still might not have too much clarification of what actually happened and didn't happen, and you could argue he escapes Arkham, there could be a time jump, or not, you know, regardless, he killed that doctor at the end, he was getting chased. I'm not saying that automatically means he magically gets out of Arkham, but regardless, we could see an Arthur Fleck who is out at Gotham from his perspective. Now he, like, think about it. Some people are saying, and I disagree with this, that he wasn't Joker until the very end. I get that angle, but this is a separate topic of discussion. But regardless, for those people, what about seeing that Joker out in Gotham City, this will be an interesting way to tell the story. When it's all told from his perspective, we're going to see this, like, people worshipping him. Maybe not in such a, oh, Joker kind of way, but, like, he's maybe doing these sporadic things around Gotham in the Joker that we saw at the end, in the red suit, the bloody red smile, that type of persona where he views his life as a comedy now, and thus will kind of litter things out in Gotham, and we see the events unfold like that. Maybe there's a similar twist at the end where it's like, oh man, maybe it actually wasn't all quite like that, with Joker viewing everything that he's doing as this beautiful anarchic chaos, whereas really maybe we see this other perspective where everyone in Gotham is absolutely terrified, but he views it as beautiful. Or, as I said, the third option is very similar. It's like you almost continue the narrative, but then it kind of turns out to be not a continuation at all, thus really leaning into the crazy mind. Like, 'cause this is what we have to think about at the end of the day. It's a crazy mind and an unreliable perspective where we think maybe it's a continuation, but by the end, it's like going down the rabbit hole. It's like you lose yourself. You think maybe there was a beginning, like the entrance, so you're like familiar with that, but when you go into it, it spirals off into 1,000 different spider web angles where you're like, that's the beauty of this character, and that's why there is potential. Sure, I can see people's perspectives of milking this, the success of the movie, the talent of Joaquin, for example, the popularity of the character. I know not everyone views this movie or puts it up on the pedestal. I'm not saying that they should. Everything is subjective at the end of the day. But I do think it's silly to just, at least in my opinion, to be like, oh, that would be terrible. I don't think it inherently means it's terrible. I can agree to an extent that it's unnecessary, but is it unnecessary if they make a... Let me ask you this. So if you're saying it's unnecessary, I can agree with that. Like, because it's a one and done thing. It was a good way of telling, like, as I said, the mental decline, the one bad day, aka a few bad days. It's a very relevant origin, albeit ambiguous, which is why we all love the twist at the end, because it stays true to the character. However, it doesn't mean it's unnecessary if they pull off a second movie, make fans really intrigued with that story that they give the second one, and litter it with such smart, maybe twists and turns and ambiguous aspects that are true to the character. Tell me if you watch that, really enjoy it, and get to see Joaquin Phoenix deliver maybe another Oscar-worthy performance. By the way, I feel like even if he did, that doesn't mean he'll get another Oscar. I'm just saying it for argument's sake. Imagine if you loved it. Let me just say that, with examples and context that I gave of where maybe they could. And probably just want to say this, for all I know, I could be way off. Think about the complex things and narratives that they could come up with that we're not even thinking about right now. Because at the end of the day, they want to write something kick-ass. So like they're probably going to try something trippy but true to the character when penning up a script for a second movie or a sequel. So if Todd Phillips is co-writing, this could mean that he is directing again. Does this mean we're getting the other writer? I don't know. I mean, that's all we know is that what the Hollywood Reporter says right here is that Todd Phillips has struck a deal to co-write the next Joker installment. So like, let me put it this way, guys. This might very much so happen. It might not happen anytime soon, kind of thing, but it is in the pipeline. I want to reassure people, or maybe try and invigorate some newfound excitement for a possibility of this, because I do want to assure people I am still in the middle, but I do like to see both sides of the fence. That's something I always try and pride myself in, is that, yeah, I can see it be one way and staying the way it was, but I do see the potential, if done very well. But it is relevant, because as I said, the character does have multiple stories, so they do have a starting point. They can do it, and it could be good, but I get the apprehension because they could just make it okay, and if that's the case, then should they have really tackled it? But the talent on board, Joaquin, the Joker character himself, I like to think and be optimistic that the second movie could very much so be something pretty decent. So other than that, guys, those are my thoughts. I would love to know yours down in the comments below. Obviously, stay subscribed or subscribe if you're brand new for more updates on this. I will be doing updates on this as of when they turn up. If you guys got to this part in the video, and especially to those who did, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And if you did, hit the like button, and also along with whatever comment you were going to type just to prove that you got to this part in the video. I love seeing it, and I'll heart every message. Hashtag you wouldn't get it. Other than that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow Jokers in the next video. Goodbye.